The University of Leicester Archaeological Services was called in to carry out this new commercial project in the heart of Leicester where new apartment blocks are going to be built, and our job was to record and rescue any of the archaeology that was going to be damaged by the new development. During the recording and rescue of the archaeology on the site, we uncovered a Roman mosaic. It's not like the Blackfriars mosaic in Leicester, which is one of the finest mosaics in Britain, which is the quality of flooring that only the very rich could afford. So this is the type of floor most houses in Leicester would have during the Roman period. There are a lot of challenges with lifting this mosaic. It was winter, it was cold, it was -degree weather, and the mosaic itself is not the highest quality. Over the 1500 years it's been buried in the ground, it's broken up, so the individual tesserae are no longer bonded together. To lift it, you need to have a dry surface on which you can successfully stick contact adhesive, and you need a bonded surface so that you don't have to worry about individual tesserae falling out. We had none of that with this project.
On the first day I arrived on site, I hadn't actually seen the mosaic itself, I'd only seen photographs, and it's very hard to judge size by photographs, and it was a lot bigger than I expected it to be. I had a plan. We were going to dry the mosaic by pouring alcohol on the surface and putting a match to it, and the heat from the burning alcohol was supposed to dry the mosaic. But it was so cold, it was below freezing, that we were below the flash point of the alcohol, and we couldn't actually dry the mosaic on that first day. On the second day, we decided that we needed to hold the mosaic together better so that we had a better chance of lifting it, so it was a more cohesive object. And to do that, we repointed all the tesserae with a traditional lime plaster. It held the tesserae together and it gave us this smooth surface, which was much more practical for sticking to, because what we were going to do next was to stick hessian to the surface to hold all the tesserae together so that we could then cut underneath and turn it over and lift it. When we lifted it, we had the hessian glued to the front of it, and we had knives and something called a slate rip, which is a long metal with a cutting edge on the front edge, which you can ram underneath it and cut underneath. This freed it from the ground, and we were then able to slide thin pieces of metal and thin pieces of plywood underneath the mosaic by lifting it a little bit and sliding them in. That allowed us to put a big board underneath, so that we could then pull the section away from where we were working. We then wrapped the whole thing up with cling film, and we put another board on the top and then flipped it over. The mosaic was in a bit of a rough old state when it arrived in the studio, so the first thing I had to do was take all the plaster off the back and clean all the back up so the tesserae were all exposed. Once I'd done that, it was necessary to consolidate the back because there was a lot of loose material between the tesserae. So I consolidated all of that with a resin which I painted on in solution, and that soaked down between and held everything together, so it was all nice and consolidated. Once that was dry, I put a layer of sand and resin over the back, which completely smoothed and sealed the back of it so that when the backing was put on, it wouldn't run down between the tesserae. I then put a fiberglass backing onto it. This was done with a chopped strand mat and a liquid polyester resin, which is stippled in rather like you would if you're making a boat or something like that. The slight problem with fiberglass is that it tends to distort a bit when it sets. There's a little bit of shrinkage. So to prevent shrinkage, I put a steel frame into the back of it with another layer of fiberglass over the top of it, so it was embedded right in the frame and very strong. Once that was all set, the mosaic was turned over and the hessian on the front was taken off.
In some ways, it's quite unusual to go to this level of effort and cost to conserve a mosaic of this quality. But actually, because of its poorer quality, you can actually see the craftsmanship behind it. You can sort of see the direction they were laying the stones in. You can see at one point one of the lines started to bend off, and so they've had to turn one line into three to create a straight edge again. It's these little human touches in it that you can see that are important, because they give you those glimpses into how it was made, who made it, their attitude to work. That gives you that real insight into the people of Roman Leicester.